There is a 75% chance that you encountered at least one serial killer in your entire life without even knowing it. But do they compare to today's list of the most brutal serial killers in history? Not a chance. Who are these killers? What made them so certifiably insane? And how did they finally meet their end? Let's get to know the 10 most brutal serial killers the world has ever seen. Number 10. Albert Fish, the Gray Man. Albert Fish has always been known as the Gray Man, one of the most depraved figures in criminal history. His life and crimes reveal a descent into darkness unimaginable. Born in 1870, Fish's childhood was extremely disturbing. He was assigned to an orphanage after his father's death, and here he was beaten frequently. The torture increased his enjoyment of pain. His family history did include mental illness, and it probably contributed to the acts he committed later in his life. Albert Fish was extremely machoistic and would often subject himself to pain. He inserted needles into his body, especially around his pelvic area, many of which were found during x-rays after his arrest. This self-harm became a twisted ritual for him and showed his deep, disturbed psyche. Fish started his criminal career with minor offenses, but later escalated to truly horrifying acts. He preyed on vulnerable children, luring them with promises of sweets or employment. His most infamous crime was the murder of Grace Budd in 1928. Fish brutally killed and cannibalized her, later sending her mother a horrifying letter detailing the act. The letter was written on an envelope with a watermark that was traceable to his lodging house. But the police finally caught him. He thought he was doing God's will, referring to biblical stories and justifying his crimes as sacrifices. This delusion added a chilling dimension to his already horrifying acts. Some analysts believe he murdered as many as dozens of children. He confessed to several, but the true extent of his massacres is not known to this day, as if boasting in his telling of the gruesome details. He was executed by electric chair in 1936, finally ending his reign of terror. If you're finding this breakdown as gripping as we are, a quick like or subscribe helps us keep uncovering more moments like these. Number 9. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Richard Ramirez's reign of terror in Southern California during the mid-1980s turned peaceful nights into walking nightmares. Born in 1960 in El Paso, Texas, Ramirez had a traumatic childhood. He was strongly influenced by his cousin, a Vietnam War veteran who shed graphic details of violence and even committed a murder in front of him. This exposure deeply shaped Ramirez's sadistic tendencies. He openly embraced Satanism, incorporating it into his crimes and public persona. At his trial, he famously declared, "Hail Satan," and often left pentagrams and satanic messages at crime scenes, further amplifying the terror surrounding its spree. Over a year, Ramirez broke into homes, murdering at least 14 people and injuring many more. His victims ranged in age, showing no pattern or preference. He frequently raped the victims and enjoyed the fear he inspired. His actions were erratic, which led to amplified public fear. Since most serial killers tend to function in a pattern, their methods do not change so easily. Ramirez used guns, knives, blunt objects, and even his hands as he thought fit. Ramirez was finally caught in 1985 when civilians identified him and subdued him until the police came. His trial became a media circus, while displaying no remorse whatsoever, and Ramirez was sentenced to death. He died of cancer in 2013, waiting for execution. Ramirez's terrifying saga is just the beginning, but the real nightmare is yet to come. So just wait until you hear about the killer clown who turned his home into a graveyard. Number 8. Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer. Dennis Rader's double life, mass murderer and respected community leader, indicates the incredible possibility of evil living right next door. Among Dennis Rader's chilling features, he compartmentalized his life quite well. During the daytime, he was an ordinary devout family man, a leader at his church, and an officer responsible for enforcing compliance. Nighttime meant to plan and carry out awful murders. He lived double, bogging people in their thoughts since even the best outer covers might hide very evil intent. Rader killed 10 people in 17 years. His name, BTK, means bind, torture, kill, which reveals his awful mode of operation. He had enjoyed the power and control that he had over his victims, and he would send taunting letters to the police describing his crimes in chilling detail. Rader planned his crimes with a lot of precision, stalking his victims for weeks or even months. He referred to these preparations as his projects, keeping detailed records of their habits and vulnerabilities. His calculated approach made him an especially dangerous predator. Rader's downfall stemmed from his arrogance. After years of silence, he resumed taunting the police. In 2005, Rader sent a floppy disk that was traced back to him. His arrest shocked his community. He confessed to all 10 murders and is serving 10 consecutive life sentences without parole. Known to be a trusted and friendly neighbor, his arrest brought out the scary truth that even the closest people around one could be keeping evil secrets. His is a tale of warning regarding the danger of complacency and also the danger of appearances. Number 7. Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov. Andrei Chikatilo terrorized the Soviet Union for over a decade by earning himself the grim title Butcher of Rostov. Born in Ukraine in 1938, Chikatilo spent his early childhood during the devastating famine of the Soviet Union. His upbringing was one of extreme poverty and bullying, which likely resulted in later violent tendencies. Chikatilo murdered at least 52 people, targeting women and children. He would lead the victims to secluded places where he brutally raped and murdered them, mutilating their bodies at some point. Chikatilo was motivated by deep-seated rage, sexual impotence, and an urge for control. He later confessed that he found satisfaction in the act of killing itself because it made him powerful in ways he never experienced in his personal life. He preyed on the most vulnerable, which were the homeless, runaways, and children. He portrayed himself as being helpful or offering food to the victims as bait, proving him manipulative and a predator. Chikatilo was arrested many times, but he would always get out of the way because of a lack of evidence. In 1990, he was caught, and after that he confessed to all his crimes. He was executed by shooting in 1994. Number 6. Ted Bundy, the charismatic killer. Ted Bundy was charming, even while carrying the monstrous truth of one of America's most infamous killers. Besides being chiseled and handsome, Bundy was a master manipulator. He usually studied his victims, learning their routines and vulnerabilities to gain their trust. For instance, he mostly pretended to require someone's assistance because of a fake injury. His victims, anticipating a friendly demeanor, did not know the horrors that awaited them. Bundy committed murders of at least 30 women across different states. His actions were characterized by crime, violence, including sexual assault and necrophilia. He repeatedly visited his victims' bodies to mutilate them further. Bundy escaped from custody twice. One time he jumped out of a courthouse window, and the other time he dug his way out of the jail cell. Authorities were shocked at his escape, which allowed him to continue his killing spree and make him more notorious. Bundy was finally captured in Florida in 1978. His case stands as one of the most infamous examples of a killer hiding in plain sight. Bundy was able to live a double life, appearing as a normal, likable man while perpetrating horrible crimes as society looked at danger. His case highlighting vigilance and awareness even around people seeming trustworthy. Number 5. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy, known as the Killer Clown, made his house a literal house of horrors. Gacy was a respected member of the community, dressing up as Pogo the Clown to entertain children. He would also host block parties, attend Democratic Party meetings, and was even awarded for his civic activities. Gacy would commonly lure victims in with the promise of jobs or feigning a need to have some home repairs done. Once he had let them into his house, he would use a handcuff trick to render them powerless before carrying out his atrocities. He masked his appearance with an innocent face. He invited young men to his house where he would sexually assault and kill them. The police found 26 bodies buried in the crawl space of Gacy's house and several more thrown into rivers nearby. His ways of suffocation and strangulation were calculated and cold. He shoved a chilling lack of remorse and even joked about his crimes after his arrest. Gacy was convinced of killing 33 people and he was sentenced to death. In court, Gacy attempted to plead insanity. Gacy tried to explain that he had multiple personality disorder and that his evil personality was the one committing the murders. This defense was rejected by the court and he was executed lethal injection in 1994. He terrorized the people during his life. But what's even more horrifying lies ahead is about a cannibal's dark secrets that will leave you questioning everything. Who was he and what drove him? Wait and watch till the end to uncover the chilling truth. Number 4. Harold Shipman, Dr. Death. Dr. Death Harold Shipman used the position and trust he had as a doctor to become one of history's most prolific serial killers. Harold Shipman was a general practitioner. This gave him unique access to vulnerable people. Most of his victims regarded him as an attentive and caring doctor. Between 1975 and 1998, he had murdered more than 250 patients by administering lethal doses of morphine. The oldest of the victims were mostly women who fear him not at all. Besides giving lethal doses of morphine, Shipman was discovered to have tampered with several wills, making himself a beneficiary. This aspect of greed added another layer of betrayal to his already atrocious crimes. Shipman was highly arrogant and committed murders in broad daylight and forged medical records to make the death appear neutral. He even comforted grieving families, maintaining his facade of professionalism. Shipman's crimes came to light when he forged a patient's will. Investigators revealed the horrifying scale of his murder. Convicted of 15 murders, he was sentenced to life in prison and he later committed suicide in 2004. Number 3. Albert DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler. Albert DeSalvo, also known as the Boston Strangler, terrorized defenseless women in their homes during the 1960s. Albert DeSalvo attacked women ranging from 19 to 85 years old with no preference for age. This randomness contributed to his crimes' unpredictability and fueled fear. He achieved entry into his victim's home by preparing a repairman. While inside, he assaulted and strangled 13 women. Most of the victims had been strangled with clothes. Many were tied into knots complicated. DeSalvo had confessed to the murders, however, he was not tried for them and was convicted of separate crimes. He was killed in prison, so it is left to wonder whether he was the lone killer. Decades later, DNA from one of the crime scenes was matched with DeSalvo's identification, thereby confirming his participation in at least one of the murders. This gave some closure but still left questions about the other victims. Number 2. Pedro Alonso Lopez, the Monster of the Andes. Pedro Alonso Lopez's crimes are among the most horrific in history. Lopez reportedly killed more than 300 young girls throughout South America. Lopez commonly kidnapped his victims from busy marketplaces after seemingly friendly conversations with his victims and offered them food or shelter. His ability to blend into his surroundings and earn the trust of young girls made him especially risky. Lopez was released in 1994. Shockwaves circled the world. At the time, Ecuador's legal system had a maximum sentence of only 16 years regardless of the crime. This leniency even enabled one of the deadliest serial killers in history to go free. After release in Ecuador, Lopez was caught for a different murder while passing through Colombia and placed under detention. He eventually went free again because of proof against him was not sufficient enough. His whereabouts are still unknown, making him one of the most terrifying people. Many think that Lopez could have been killed even after his release, since there were cases of young girls disappearing in areas where he was known to visit. It was one of the scariest stories in the criminal history annals because the case had not been closed and there was a possibility that there could be another committed crime. Number 1. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Cannibal. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes were one of the worst ever recorded, for which he received nicknames the Milwaukee Cannibal. He attracted victims to his apartment mainly via bars, clubs, or streets. He vowed to get them money, friendship, or liquor, but after they trusted him enough, he did vile stuff to them. Dahmer was seen making his victims zombies. He made holes in skulls, filled them with either acid or boiling water as liquids. It was one of the most vicious aspects of all his crimes, the trying efforts to exert total control on his victims. He not only murdered, but also stored pieces of their bodies, including the skull and heart, for trophies. He also included photographs of the mutilation process, which he used to recreate the murders and feed his macabre obsession. From 1978 to 1991, Dahmer killed 17 males and mutilated the body parts, as well as indulged in acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. Years went by with complaints about smells from his apartment, which, along with the noise at night, did not alert them to suspect that the person was a killer. This could be due to the reason that he did not exhibit any aggression. Police detected remains in his apartment, including skulls and preserved body parts. In 1991, Dahmer was arrested and he eventually confessed in graphic detail. He received 15 life terms but was murdered by another inmate in 1994. The stories of these serial killers are haunting reminders of the darkest parts of humanity. Cruelty and manipulation of these individuals force one to face hard truths about the possibility of evil, the thirst for control, and the devastating results of unchecked behavior. While their crimes are horrific, they also demonstrate how vile justice and accountability are. Most of these killers exploited faults in society, whether in missed warning signs, errors from police, or simply weak systems. Their stories remind us why it's so important to stay alert and why it's not just about catching criminals, but creating a society that prevents such horrors. The pain of their victims and the heartbreak of their families remind us of the value of compassion. Each victim was a person with hopes, dreams, and loved ones. By remembering them, we honor their lives and recognize the need to support survivors and their families as they cope with the aftermath of these tragedies. These stories also push us to improve society, from offering better mental health care to creating stronger community connections. It's not just about punishing those who harm, it's about protecting the vulnerable, helping survivors heal, and promoting kindness and understanding. At the end of the day, these stories are the worst and best of humanity. They remind us of the strengths of survivors, the importance of working together, and the power of empathy. These lessons challenge us to build a safer, more caring world for everyone. If you have found this video informative, please like, comment, and subscribe for more quality videos. Feel free to write in the comments below if you want us to cover specific topics or ideas. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.